Sakshat, directly. Vishnu, the Supreme Lord. Jaga, Yagya. Swarupadrik, accepting the form. Ya, the other. Stri, female. Sa, she. Dakshina, Dakshina. Bhute, of the goddess of fortune. Amsabhuta, being a plenary expansion. Anapayini, never to be separated. Yastayo Purusha Sakshat, Vishnu Jaga Swarupadrik, Yastri Sadakshina Bhutar, Amsha Bhutanyat Payini, Yastayo Purusha Sakshat, Vishnu Jagya Swarupadrik, Yastri Sadakshina Bhutar, is Stri, not Shtri. Amsha Bhutana Payini, Yastayo Purusha Sakshad, Vishnu Jagya Swarupadrik, Yastri Sadakshina Bhutar, Amsha Bhutana Payini, Yastayo Purusha Sakshat, Vishnu Jagya Swarupadrik, Yastri Sadakshina Bhutar, Hamsa Bhutana Payini, Yastayo Purusha Sakshat, Yastayo Purusha Sakshat, Yastri Sadakshina Bhutar, Amsha Bhutana Payini. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Of the two children born of Akuti, the male child was directly an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and his name was Jagya, which is another name of Lord Vishnu. The female child was a partial incarnation of Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, the eternal consort of Lord Vishnu. Purport. Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, is the eternal consort of Lord Vishnu. Here it is stated that both the Lord and Lakshmi, who are eternal consorts, appear from Akuti simultaneously. Both the Lord and his consort are beyond this material creation, as confirmed by many authorities. Narayana Parovyaktat. Therefore, their eternal relationship cannot be changed. And Jagya, the boy born of Akuti, married the goddess of fortune. I'm going to read the next text as well. Anidnye svagraham putriya putram vitata rochisham swayambhuvo muda yukto ruchir jagraha dakshinam. Swayambhuva Manu very gladly brought home the beautiful boy named Jagya, and Ruchi, his son-in-law, kept with him the daughter, Dakshina. Purport. Swayambhuva Manu was very glad to see that his daughter Akuti had given birth to both a boy and a girl. He was afraid that he would take one son, and that because of his son-in-law, Ruchi might be sorry. Because of this, his son-in-law, Ruchi, might be sorry. Thus, when he heard that a daughter was born along with the boy, he was very glad. Ruchi, according to his promise, returned his male child to Swayambhuva Manu and decided to keep the daughter, whose name was Dakshina. One of Lord Vishnu's names is Jagya because he is the master of all the Vedas. The name Jagya comes from the Yajusam Pati, which means Lord of all sacrifices. In the Yajurveda, there are different ritualistic prescriptions for performing jagyas, and the beneficiary of all such jagyas is the Supreme Lord Vishnu. Therefore it is stated in the Bhagavad Gita 3.9, Jagyartat karmana. One should act, but one should perform one's prescribed duties only for the sake of Jagya or Vishnu. If one does not act for the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or if one does not perform devotional service, then there will be reactions to all one's activities. It does not matter if the reaction is good or bad. If our activities are not dovetailed with the desire of the Supreme Lord, or if we do not act in Krishna consciousness, then we shall be responsible for the results of all of our activities. There is always a reaction to every kind of action, but if actions are performed for Jagya, there is no reaction. Thus, if one acts for Jagya, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one is not entangled in the material condition, for it is mentioned in the Vedas and also in the Bhagavad Gita that the Vedas and the Vedic rituals are all meant for understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. From the very beginning, one should try to act in Krishna consciousness. That will free one from the reactions of material activities. Om Agyana Timidandasya Kyananjana Shalakaya Chaksur Meditam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vacharam Pangum Lagayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Bande Shigurum Dinataram Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. So here we go with the genealogical table of the daughters of Manu. Now, if this is not important, why is that people are so obsessed with 23andMe about finding out their DNA? They want to know where they came from. They want to know who they are. They cannot really know who they are based on their DNA, because the DNA is not, they haven't taken Krishna's DNA, so they don't know. And that's the problem when you deal with an entity that is far superior to you. You can't just, make an appointment for Krishna to come to the lab so they can draw some blood out of him and see, what his DNA and what its origin is. Everyone comes from Krishna, but the material bodies are different. So if we confuse the material body as a self, then there will be just confusion along the way. If one departs from a wrong premise, one is bound to commit mistakes all the way to the end, even if the whole process is correct. So the wrong premise is that we are not related to Krishna, that we are superficial, we are part of this world, that we are both mind and body, we are the soul and the mind, we are the soul and the body. This is just a very confusing place where people get all kind of crazy ideas about who they are. But if you, that's why the Bhagavatam is very explicit and appears to be, why genealogical table? Who cares? Who wants to know all these names? But this is our people. This is our family. This is how we came about. When you want to hear about your ancestors, what do you know about your great-great-grandfather? Probably nothing. I don't even know his name, and I don't think I ever knew. So, but you will probably want to know something. My grandfather took a boat in the beginning of the 20th century, just from Lithuania, and went all the way to South America, which made it a little more difficult for me to get a visa to the States. He could have just stopped in Ellis Islands and get off there, but he didn't. And so I want to know. I don't know anything. I think I asked him, how was it? How was your childhood? I think he left Vilnius, capital of Lithuania, when he was 5 or so. So he remembers the winters were very cold, and that's it. He didn't speak any Lithuanian, he didn't speak any Russian, but he always spoke Spanish with an accent. So you want to know, where do these people come from? And he just tried to trace it back. Well, stop looking, just look into the Bhagavatam and you can see all the way back where it starts. And this is important because these people are not ordinary people. As you can see, a kuti gave birth to the Lord and the goddess of fortune. So these are not ordinary people that give birth to twins. These are the Supreme Lord and His consort decide to appear. So they must be extremely elevated people, not just run-of-the-mill mother and father. And Prabhupada says in his purport to the verse number 5 about Jagya. The Lord is called Jagya because He's the recipient of all the sacrifices. That's what Jagya means, sacrifice. And the Lord of sacrifices is Jagya Himself. So if you don't offer if you're not a karmi, if you don't do karma yoga, and which all processes are flawed except for bhakti, but bhakti can also be practiced in a flawed way. But the other processes, they give partial results. In other words, they are upadharmas. They're not the dharma. They just help you get to a certain point. Just like certain religions. I mean, all religions have some merit, but the majority of religions are simply upadharma. They get you to the point of being morally sensible, and ethically correct. So we say, well, but these are barbaric people, like the Muslims doing jihad, and the Christians and the Crusades, and everybody else doing some kind of crazy stuff. But just imagine if they didn't have a deity, if they didn't have a God, it will be way worse, way worse. There will be no regulation of any sort. So it is good. Krishna actually appears and sends prophets, or usually He doesn't show up in other people's houses. But he saves that privilege for the devotees. But he gives certain indications, and just like He sent the commandments, right? Well, they seem like a good thing, but consider for a moment if you invite someone to your home and you tell them, before you come in, you have to promise that you're not going to kill anybody, you're not going to have sex with my wife, you're not going to eat my pets. You're basically reciting the 10 Commandments, to a guest that you bring home. Obviously, if the person has some moral decency, will be insulted by your request, and you shouldn't have invited. If you have to ask such a thing, you shouldn't have invited that person to begin with. But this is what we are dealing with in this world. Like, you tell people you shouldn't kill. Yeah. Really? And I imagine that at the time of Christ, or at the time of Muhammad, people were actually puzzled by these kind of requests. Like, really? And the Quran, it says you should not have sex with your mother. I'm sure he got a lot of hands, during that lecture, and saying, really? What do you do for fun in the desert? What do we do around here? So this is upadharma at best. Bhakti doesn't even deal with these kind of things. It just starts above, understanding that these are highly elevated beings that have achieved, due to sukriti, due to kripa, due to some sadhana, due to something, they have achieved a certain level, and they now can start practicing their real duty, which is to work, think, and act for the pleasure of Jagya, or the Supreme Lord. And then, when they engage in so-called material activities, like having progeny, then they should have it in a regulated and spiritual way. So the result will be also spiritual. You just don't have kids because you feel like having sex. That is, John Lennon said that 90% of the modern population is the result of the byproduct of a Saturday night hangover. That was John Lennon's statement, which is pretty much true. The Bhagavatam speaks about Varna Shankara, undesirable population, people that just have intercourse, and then all these kids that nobody wants come about, and they become hard to teach because they have no feeling for spiritual life, no feeling at all. They're complete materialists, and they will rarely have a spiritual moment in their life, some moment of introspection. So children should be begotten by spiritual means. You do purification. You do, like here we will see later on that Atri Muni, same chapter, he actually went with his wife to a secluded, beautiful place, and stood on one leg for 100 years. It's hard to do. Yeah, I don't know if you tried, but really hard. 100 years standing on one leg, and when the three deities, the three predominating deities, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, came to see him. And he didn't know who God was. Actually, when they showed up, he had no idea which one. Because he actually prayed to the Supreme, whom he didn't know who he was, for a son like him. Not like himself, but like the Supreme. He wanted to have God as a son. Prabhupada explains that is a material desire. He could have asked for the Supreme to enlighten him, to bless him. No, but he just wanted a kid like God. He didn't want God, he wanted a kid to be like God. So that's a material desire. So even Atri knew that in order to beget a son, he had to practice serious austerities in order to beget a son the way he wanted. Having a child is not difficult. You just have sex, but having a good son is a little more difficult. I was actually in the festival, in the Bhakti Sangama festival in Ukraine, maybe 3 years ago, and I was sitting next to, I forgot, Bhakti Raghava Swami, and we were watching a video. The last day of the festival, usually the devotees take different videos during the festival, and then on the last day they compile it and edit it and show it to everybody. But it was in Russian, so there was a devotee behind us, Dvija Govinda, who was translating to the two of us. Very good translator, very qualified boy. I mean, it's not a boy anymore, but he has 2 PhDs. His wife also has a PhD, and as he was translating, when we got to the end of it, I turned around to see who it was, because it was very crowded. It's about 10,000 people, and then when I saw him, I said, "Oh, I know who you are. You're Dvija Govinda. You have a special son." He said, "Yeah, Madhava, he's right here." So he was kneeling right next to him. "Oh, does he speak English?" He said, No, just Russian." "Okay, can you bring him in front of us to, I would like to talk to him." And I told Maharaj, listen to this. This guy is not ordinary. So the boy was very reverential, really, really sweet, a little odd. He was 9 years old. So I said, "I heard that you decided to read the Bhagavatam when you were 7. And he said, "Yeah, I did." "So, did you finish it?" He said, "Yeah, I did." "How long it took you?" "About 1.5 years. "And how did you go about it?" He said, "Well, I would read for minimum half hour a day, sometimes up to 2, 3, 4 hours." "So, what about the parts that are more esoteric or technical, how do you deal with that? Well, in that case, I will call an adult to help me to elucidate some of those sections. But mostly I understood. Mostly I got it. So I think he had memorized the Gita before that, but obviously, a 7-year-old kid that reads the Bhagavatam by his own volition is not an ordinary kid. It's no ordinary kid at all. We can hardly find any 45-year-olds that want to read the Bhagavatam, want to begin and end. So this child is a result of good union. It's nice. If you have that desire to have a child, then why not bring a child that is Krishna conscious? In order to do that, you have to prepare your own consciousness to bring someone alike, because that's what happened. Someone attracted to that type of consciousness with a similar consciousness will come and be impregnated into the woman's womb. Now, obviously, Kuti was definitely in that category, and these are people that are empowered and strongly advised, actually, to populate the earth. This is the beginning. How do you get people to populate the earth? So, people say nowadays there is overpopulation. I agree, there is overpopulation of undesirable people. They should be sent to, there is plenty of room. You go to Kansas or, we drove from California, and it's about 18 to 19 hours, and for probably 17 and a half out of the 18 and a half hours, we didn't see a soul anywhere, but there was plenty of land. So there is plenty of room. There is no overpopulation. There is overpopulation of Varnashankaras, undesirable. So people agglutinate in towns, in cities. They want to, because they're afraid, they are lonely, they are bored. So they get together because of fear, because of boredom, because of sex desire, because of the availability of sense gratification. Like there was a devotee he lived in the city, and he came to Alachua. I was in Alachua when Alachua was cow town. Literally there was like 2 bulls, 4 cows, 6 families, and a bunch of rednecks around, and nothing else. And this, he stayed, he came and he spent the night, and he actually had to go outside and turn his car engine on because he couldn't sleep, it was too quiet. So he had to hear some rumble, some noise of some sort. So basically he just ran his car for a couple hours idle, because he couldn't bear the silence, the quiet times. Most people are like that. They get bored, they get afraid, they need to be together in a place. Even though you can go to a building that's full of people and they don't even know who the neighbors are. They don't even talk to each other, but they just feel their presence, so that's enough. That's enough. I'm not alone. I'm surrounded by others, but there is no relationship there. Pleasure is only in relationships, and the highest pleasure is in the relationship with Krishna. So that's my little conclusion for today, that we shouldn't be afraid of where we are, and we shouldn't be afraid of anything, because Krishna is with us, even of having a family and children, which I was never fond of. But there was an incident. I was in a farm. I was distributing books in the Smoky Mountains, and I made friends with a woman that was the right-hand person, the one who was running an ashram for some Mayavadi people. So they were very nice. They were very nice to us. So we decided to do a program there, and Hridayananda Maharaj was in the area, so we invited him to speak. And I remember there were a bunch of kids running amok in the kitchen, and all these women, young women, and they were cooking and so on. They didn't even notice the noise and the ruckus that was happening because the kids were just running amok. So I'm not like them. I don't live with tinnitus caused by children. That there's always a ringing, and then you don't hear it anymore after a while. I can hear that. So I stopped the children and I said, listen, there's going to be a program here, and we are busy cooking, and we are trying to be in a certain state, and this is disturbing to us. So you have to find another place to play. You get that? And they say, yeah. And they just went away. And the women turned to me and they said, oh, he would make such a good father. And I thought, yeah, I probably would, but I don't want to limit myself to one or two children of my own blood. I just want to be a good father to all the children. Why limit yourself? You have to actually help whomever is in need. Not because these people live with me, they need help and nobody else does. So we shouldn't shrink our consciousness, we should expand it. And that's what Krishna Consciousness is about. If you love Krishna, you love everybody else. And if you love a couple of people, you will not love them really. And you will not love Krishna. So you have to develop some sort of empathy and see this world as the world of Krishna's lost brothers and sisters, and help them out to reach home safely. Okay. You want to add something? Yes. By the way, I want to say that usually. Sorry, I'm speaking. Usually you ask questions, but you know the answer to begin with, and you do it for the benefit of others. So I commend you on that. Even in the Bhagavatam, this is actually praiseworthy. That I know you know the answer, and you're asking these questions for the benefit of others. So thank you for that.
It's really nice to expand everything. So many wonderful ways that devotees explain things, and it just, goes on and on and on, never stops. But I have one successful genealogy story. It started mundanely, and then it ended up Krishna consciously. So one distant relative whom we didn't know existed really, or didn't know where or much about. So anyway, so this personality, young lady, she went on the internet, and I guess there's a way that, with, like you're saying, the DNA, you can connect with those who are on this program who have the same DNA, family DNA, however it works. So anyway, so she did that, and then her uncle, she found out this one personality through this computer program was her uncle. So then her uncle contacted me and told me about her, this Rosemary. So anyway, he said, why don't you get in touch with her? And so I did. and she was so receptive to Krishna consciousness, and turned out her husband was a Sikh, and the whole family and all the extended family and all the friends, everybody was all way receptive, super receptive. And so I would send prasadam and books, and then young lady in her 30s just then recently passed away, left her whole family and everything, but Krishna just hooked her up right at the right time, you know, before she was going to leave this world. And through that mundane, you know, system of find your family kind of thing. So she really, like you're saying, she found Krishna's family. So that was really, it was kind of exciting to see. So thank you.
Thank you. And I'm sure this is just one of the many miracles you perform by your dedication. And I know that when Divya left Denver to marry me, we used to get letters from you know, for every year, several letters, and even if maybe that's why we stay in Krishna consciousness, because of your encouragement. It's very possible, very possible. So this is a good example of how things should be done. You know, you actually care for others because they are your family too. It's not like you look up. Oh yes, this is a Kanishta mentality that you look up and you don't look forward or down. It's like people come to the temple and they see the deities and they're very devoted, but they don't see anybody else. As soon as they leave the doors, it's a hostile world and all dog eat dog. No, this is how you can make progress in spiritual life, to see that Paramatma is within everyone's heart, that the deity is outside of the temple, is everywhere, is within every atom. And Krishna is everywhere, and everybody is actually inherently looking for Krishna. And you have to find him, you have to help him find him, because your spiritual life depends on it too. Yeah. If someone's about to cross the street and a bus is coming, it's your duty, it's your obligation to tell them, hey, watch out, you're gonna be run over by a bus. So, guess what? Everybody's about to cross the street when the bus is coming. So it's your obligation to tell them, wait before you do that. Let me help you out. And if they insist, and you can't help them if they want to kill themselves. But most people are not. They do so because of pain. But the pain doesn't end like that. The pain ends when you achieve the lotus feet of Krishna, not before. Yeah. Everything else is pain all the way, except for that. And sometimes Krishna is pleased with you. I mean, Krishna is pleased with every effort that we do. And don't go away. I have Prabhu, Dhanakriya, I have a job for you. Sometimes there is a reward. Yesterday, we got an order. We have a website, thegourmetashram.com, and we got an order for, usually we get salad dressing orders, but yesterday we got, the day before, got an order for sweets, make special sweets. And I made them yesterday and offered them. And when I tried them, I was so happy to know that I didn't make them. This time where there was some divine intervention, because I don't have that kind of skill. So I brought a few for you guys to try, just to taste Krishna's own cooking. So, all right, I only brought 10 pieces, so you have to fight for them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 19, perfect. Yeah. Sorry, internet viewers, you have to come over when pandemic is over. So, any other questions or comments? Yes, Prabhu. No, that's good. I'll take it to you.
Yeah, I was just hearing a little on the live stream. This one instead? Oh, both. Okay. Yeah, you just caught. I'm not sure if you followed up further. You were discussing about upadharmas earlier. Upadharma. You were discussing about upadharma. Okay. So I wasn't sure if you, because I might have missed a little bit of it when I was coming down. Yeah, you were talking about upadharma. So just wanted to ask your realizations throughout the decades, being that you've been on college campuses and traveling and meeting people on all different levels, professionals, students, etc. When connecting with people in that close way, what's been your realizations? So when you're interacting with them, we may think this person is engaged in a path that's upadharma. I'm on the path of bhakti, and there's a superiority in bhakti. You know, we understand, and then these other practices are upadharmas. And at the same time, holding a space where they feel like there's no feeling of superiority. So I guess what I'm trying to ask is, how do we know, like, what's the some will say, oh, why are you so kind of hands-off and not just really cutting in to say, you're on a path of upadharma, it's lesser, come to bhakti. Right? Challenge them. Even sometimes in Prabhupada's conversations and lectures with interviewers, he would challenge quite strongly. So yeah, just your kind of personal realizations of having associates and friends and people that you've reached out to. They may not take directly to bhakti, but yet you have a connection. You keep a connection with them without you giving up your. It's not like you're like that example given, like a chameleon. You're not just giving into like, oh yeah, I'll be a Mayavadi because I'm talking to this person, or I'll adjust to this philosophy. You're keeping your foundation and your loyalty very strong, and at the same time they feel that you're their friend. And so just any realizations. Well, just your realizations on that. Just because sometimes it's like, it could be like, am I too kind of, what's the word? Wishy-washy. Yeah, wishy-washy, too like not cutting, not like, being more straightforward. So just your realizations and how you've been moving throughout the decades.
Well, it's been different in different decades. It's not the same nowadays. When I started preaching, it was like all out. There's no hiding, there's no pulling back. It's like you just drop a bomb. Wherever you go, you hammer Krishna consciousness into their throat and just send it in. Things started changing eventually, and one had to become a little more friendly, let's say. Fortunately or unfortunately, I was well-rounded, so I know a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and I can relate to people at that level. I can talk about the stuff that they are interested in and probably know something about it in a trivial, mundane way. And I try to put it together. Some people are not ready, and you have to give them whatever they can take. It's like when you find someone who's dying of thirst, you can't just pour water into their body. They will get a shock and they may die. They are completely depleted from electrolytes, from salts, from minerals. So you have to give them very little water, some salt, some potassium, some sodium, something that they actually can absorb what they're getting. So these people are parched Many people are totally parched, and if you put too much of anything, they will get a shock and they won't accept it. I had experiences where they were the opposite of what I thought would happen. I remember I was distributing books in Orlando, Florida, at the airport, and one day I met two guys separately, and they were probably the most, the closest to bhaktas that you can find. And at those times I was selling Bhagavatam 2.1. That was the, so we had boxes and boxes around. And I remember I would sign them to such and such from, in this, how do you call the cover of a book? Inside I would sign my name, put their name, because when people see their name somewhere, they think, oh, that's nice, when they hear the name, when they see the name. So I put my name, and these two guys, in the same day, I met, the nicest people you could ever meet. Once a month, the cleaners of the airport, they will sell us back the books that people left in the airport. Because we were quite a few devotees, and there were a lot of the books sold, and some were sold by pressuring means, so people will leave them behind. So I was in charge of buying the books back because I was good at bargaining. The cleaners will come and say, well, this is 25 cents for the small books and $1 for the large books. I said, you kidding me? No way. I give you 10 cents for the small books and 25 cents for the large books. And I said, no, but that's, well, you know what? We make a lot more money selling them, so why don't you do that? Just sell them by their merit. Sell them yourself. Don't sell them to me, just sell them to anybody. And I say, all right, we'll take 10 cents and 25 cents, no problem. So I remember that when we got the box of books, abandoned books, those two books that I signed to those, future star bhaktas were there. They were there. They left them behind. So you can never tell. And nowadays things are quite different. It's hard to get millennials to commit to anything, even to return a text, what to speak of, to practice Krishna consciousness. So you just have to do whatever is, you adapt. You become a chameleon in that sense, that you adapt to whatever the time and circumstances and the people. I didn't think myself capable of, but I gave lectures at the USC club, the UCLA club, and the Mantra House, where I was requested very strongly not to mention Krishna and not to mention God and not to mention religion. So I gave an hour lecture without mentioning God, without mentioning Krishna, without mentioning religion. I don't know how I did it, but and why did I agree to do it? Because I could see the result. They are making devotees. They're actually getting people to come very often, to help cook, to clean, to chant japa, without that. Because of a connotation, because they have probably a pejorative idea of what religion. But but then behind me, there is a huge sign with Hare Krishna mantra. Huge. Or it's projected on the wall, or it's painted on the wall. And they're okay with that because they don't have any negative association with the Hare Krishna movement or Hare Krishna devotees. Whereas if you meet someone my age, they only remember people playing tambourines, dressing sheets, pink, moving about. They had no idea, but it looked very foreign to them and, very strange and very cultish and so on. They had no idea. Matter of fact, they had no idea how many Hare Krishnas there were. And they thought it was like a plague, like locusts. Then we were everywhere. They did a devotee did an impromptu survey in Detroit and asked a bunch of different people throughout the day, how many Hare Krishnas do you think there are in Detroit? And the lowest number they came up with was 1,000. That was the lowest number. There were 10 devotees, but they were everywhere. They were every corner. They went to different places. They were selling books. They were selling incense. They were going to stores. There were 10, and nobody could guess that there were less than 1,000. They all thought, well, they're all over the place. There must be thousands and thousands of them. So we have to. I don't know, my realization, I met so many people, I cultivated so many people, and I treat them differently according to what I think they need. And I think I've made this point before, that timing is crucial, because you can give the remedy at the time the person is not ready, and they won't take it, or they won't cause effect, will go through their system. So you just have to find something that they can identify with, attach to. Basically, I remember Divya, who wasn't a book distributor, but she told me that she met this guy who was an atheist and tried to sell him a book. And the guy said, no, I'm an atheist. And she said, well, think you're just the same. You have a wonderful day. Have a great life. And the guy walked away and then came back and said, you're so nice. I'll buy a book from you. You see, there was no real chemistry, but there was. She made it happen by being nice. So you can be all smart or brilliant or recite the Rig Veda backwards, but still it may not have any impact because you're not using it correctly. To use it correctly means you actually understand that there is a suffering soul struggling in a material body, just like me, and I am, by Krishna's grace, by the devotee's mercy, I'm a little ahead in the path, in the same path. So I have to bring him up. I have to do whatever I can. And so then you look at the particulars of the situation, and you say, okay, what can I do for you? How can I keep you? How can I help you in a way that I won't contaminate myself, but this person will make advancement, even against their own nature. Even they are not ready. That's why they say devotees are more merciful than Krishna, because Krishna, just lets the law of karma take care of that. But the devotees, they don't have any interest in people going to Yamaraj. They want them to, bring them out of that path and become Krishna conscious. So whomever you meet, wherever you go, just give them Krishna consciousness, even if it is diluted, even if it is faint, even if it is inconvenient. Just give them something. Don't force the situation. At least make it happen so the next time they meet a devotee, they have a good interaction. They had a good impression, and that is in the back of their consciousnesses. I had a very nice meeting before with this bhakti practitioner, and I didn't feel coerced. I didn't feel pressure. So I'll give it a chance now. So you're not the last devotee they may meet. So make a good impression. Sorry, I wasn't too specific, but I think that's what I can do. Yes. It's 9:02, so make it short. Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhu, for class. I just wanted to talk about the subtle ways. If I don't feel so educated in, the Bhagavatam or the Gita. I mean, I have read the Gita, but there's ways I always find that Krishna works through us, and I think I've spoken about that. Recently, Tadia gave a little recorder for me to pass on to an elderly woman down the street that plays Srila Prabhupada. And it's not something she would normally do. It's not her nature. Though through Mother Nidra, through Tadiyat, through myself, she called me and said, "Oh, what is that you sent me?" And then she called again and left a message and said, "It's so beautiful. I've been listening to it while I'm around the house, doing little cleaning and various things." So, and the more she calls me, the more she'll start with Hare Krishna. That's, it's just sort of like she's evolving in a way that probably she doesn't even know just by the association of our connection. And to me, that's like those subtle ways that Krishna works through us, We may not have the ability to be able to really talk in a way that I even understand how I can relate Krishna consciousness, but there's times when it comes through, so I appreciate that.
Praise for you and advice. The praise is yes. You don't need to know anything. You can, like Jayananda, he wasn't a scholar. People, Jayananda is one of the first devotees to join the Hare Krishna movement. He joined in 1967, I believe, in San Francisco, and he was the nicest person. Matter of fact, people, one guy came to find out about the Hare Krishna movement, came to the temple, and there was a guy underneath a car fixing it, and saw the legs of someone walking in, and said, "Hey, can you hand me the wrench and this and that?" So he just hung out with this guy that was fixing the car, and he said, "Oh my God, if this is the mechanic, I can't imagine how the priests and the other people are. They must be amazing." This was the temple president, Jayananda. He wasn't preaching philosophy. He was just such a nice guy, and he was very dear to the devotees, very dear to Prabhupada, and very dear to Krishna. So you have to become very dear to the devotees, very dear to Prabhupada, and very dear to Krishna, and then you can preach your heart to your heart's content, and probably it doesn't matter how much you know, how much you don't know. No, that's a praise. The advice is that you should study the scriptures. You should actually dedicate every day time to read, time to learn, because this philosophy is very deep, and these books are not ordinary. Matter of fact, you will find out, like everyone here and everybody else that probably read the scriptures, so you can actually read the same verse and find deeper and different meaning every time you read it. So you do have to systematically learn the philosophy, because otherwise it will be, your mind will take over and it will become a sentimental thing. So you have to discipline the mind by studying the scriptures regularly, and you will relish it. This is not a chore. This is actually a task that you have to do, and you will actually relish that. And you actually share it. And when you share it with others, it will actually stick to you. So make sure you read the books every day. Yeah? Thank you. Okay, we'll stop here. Thank you very much. Hope you enjoy the sweet. Since the class is not enjoyable, at least the sweet is. All glory to the Prabhupada.